Morning. Oh my gosh. I am just like so excited about this book. Um, I really want everyone's input. I just kind of want to say why I'm excited because, what we see on the news and this whole like the market shifting thing, this book, even more now than ever, I think it's going to for all of us, not just, in our real estate, but just kind of what's happening in the world, period. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing some ahas and takeaways that you guys have had from reading. Even though it was just 33 pages, it was a lot. And my book is like highlighted everywhere with notes. Yeah, so who would like to share some of their, what they're excited about and what they're looking forward to learning and implementing?
I think one of the things that is real succinct and expresses a lot, it says, as a society, we know very well how to be unwell and miserable, and so little about how to thrive. And that's one of the things that made me excited about this book, is that I'm one of those people.
Nice. Who else?
Teresa, I'm sorry I'm not going to participate today because I haven't bought the book yet. But I will listen what the other people have to say.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, definitely make sure you get this book ordered. Amazon, it's like usually next day. It's really cool because he wrote this book. He works at Harvard, went to Harvard, a teacher, professor, and he was in South Africa in a little town outside of Johannesburg. And he asked the students, like these little young kids, who's excited to be here, right? And he was thinking that no one would raise their hand, right? Because, being a teacher at Harvard, anytime he asked the students who's excited to be here, everyone goes, ugh, right? And he said 95% of the students raised their hand. And he's like, whoa. And afterwards, he looked at their professor and he said, man, your kids are weird. Like, why would they all raise their hands? And he goes, because it's a privilege for them. It's a privilege for them to be here. And that's what sparked this journey for him. That's what sparked this, let me study about this, because he's going, wow, these underprivileged kids find it a privilege to be in school when these Harvard students who come from, prestigious, wealthy families, or, the top 1% of their class, coming to Harvard, they're all unhappy. What's going on here, right? So that's what sparked this study for him. And he looked at, being the psychology part, it was focusing on why are you unhappy? What's making you unhappy versus what makes you happy? So it's called the positive psychology. That's how it was created. And I think it's such an amazing, I just think it's so amazing. I'm really like into this book, so excited to dig into it. Because, and it even with me, it's like, sometimes I ask you guys, well, where's their opportunity for growth? What do you feel you did really well? And what was challenging for you? And so it was kind of a lesson for me too, like, what makes you happy? Focusing on what makes you happy and learning, he was like, if we study about average, then that's all we're going to recreate is average. Why not study the above, that one outlier? So who has read the book and would like to elaborate on what they got out of that part of the book when he talks about the outlier?
I read up until up until part 2.
Okay,
I'm not sure what we were supposed to read to.
yes.
Okay. So the thing that I really got out of it, I think mostly was people think that happiness comes from success. Happiness comes from wealth. Happiness comes from the things you achieve. When I think what he realized in all of these studies is that's not, because people achieve all those things, they're still not happy.
Yeah.
And that's where I really, it resonated a lot with me. It's like, I think, oh, if I just get these deals, then I'll be okay. I'll be happy. If I just get, this paycheck, then I'll be okay. I'll be happy. But it really made you stop and think, what is your happiness?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He talks about, we're all like, we're all, we hear about it and we're raised that, if you work really hard, you're going to be really successful. But sometimes working really hard is stressful. And you think that working hard and success makes you happy. You're right. And it doesn't. Right. And, he talks about that nearly 1,200 Harvard students enrolled in his class, and that's 1 in every 6 students at one of the most hard driving universities in the world that enrolled in his positive psychology class. He said that they were starving to be happier, not sometime in the future, but in the present. And because they were that 1% of where they were, but in Harvard, guess what? They're not that 1%. He said they're 99% of the 1%, and there's of that 1%. He's like, if my calculation is correct, 99% of Harvard students do not graduate the top 1%. Such a great book. And he talks about if all you strive for is diminishing the bad, you'll only attain the average and you'll miss out the opportunity to exceed the average. Right. So
I thought it was interesting how the ones that stood out in standard statistics or psychology studies, they just erase those. They somehow use some statistical magic to eliminate those because it threw off their data. And those are the ones that he wanted to study rather than trying to be like this, the plot. He wanted to study that out there. And I didn't join Keller Williams because I wanted to be part of the plot line. I joined Keller Williams because I wanted to be the outlier.
Mm-hmm. He talks about back to what Catherine was saying, that, actually, he says, these best and brightest willingly sacrificed happiness for success because, like many of us, they'd been taught that if you work hard, you'll be successful. And only then, when you're successful, will you be happy. They've been taught that happiness is the reward you get only when you become a partner of an investment firm, win the Nobel Prize, or get elected to Congress. So what happens if you don't? What, you're not going to be happy? You don't achieve happiness? And actually, in fact, new research shows that you become more successful when you're happier and more positive. It turns out that our brains are literally hardwired to perform at their best, not when they're negative or even neutral, but when they're positive.
I'm sorry. I was thinking that his ultimate goal, and I haven't finished the book yet, but I'm thinking that his ultimate goal is to kind of tell us that happiness comes from inside. And if we stay positive, then that will be the happiness we need to keep us going all the time. And that's what's going to drive us, is our own internal positivity. That's where I thought he was going from it all. And that's kind of what I was seeing in his little studies and in his shocking revelations around the world about schooling.
Absolutely correct. Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, again, when we are we become more successful when we're happier. And so what I'm really excited about is, is that he's got his 7 principles that are scientifically proven to improve happiness, right? And that's what we're going to dive into in this book club, and that's what we're going to implement. And I'm just really excited because not only as your coach, but as your fellow associate in this industry, and your friend, or whatever you want to call me, to go on this journey with you guys, right? So that we can all create a happier, I've never approached it with these 7 principles. I mean, I've got the tools that I have as a master practitioner, but I'm really excited to dig into these. He said that studies conclusively showed that the quickest way to high achievement is not a single-minded concentration on work, and that the best way to motivate employees is not to bark orders and foster a stressed and fearful workforce. Instead, new research on happiness and optimism were turning both the academic and corporate worlds upside down. It's about, taking these positive outliers, and that's where he founded these 7 principles, by studying the outliers. So I'm really excited for us to dig into that. And, the great thing is that the findings match the principles that he was teaching, that happiness leads to success in nearly every domain. So in all areas of our lives, this will affect not just our career, but our families, our friendships, our health, creativity, energy, everything. And it was really cool to find out that, and this is one thing that we do talk about, 90% of our brain is our unconscious. We only use 10% of our brain. And he talks about that the brain change, which was one thought is impossible, is absolutely 100% possible. We can train our brains to learn more and to actually grow, which is really cool. That was whenever he's talking about change is possible. And when you think about it, like change is possible, it's just really exciting, and I love the example he gives. It's the neuroplasticity in our brain that makes it possible for our brains to grow and to change and to learn. He's like, the cab drivers in London, they have to take an exam and literally draw the map of London, right? Well, do you think that they were born with that? Or do you think that they taught themselves and their brains developed to learn that? It says happiness is not the belief that we do not need to change. It's the realization that we can. And so I think once we all accept that, and for those of you who have had coaching calls with me since my mastermind with Gary Keller, I've been sharing with you about limiting beliefs and unlimiting beliefs. So we're doing the release work on our limiting beliefs and then living in the land of possibility, which is your unlimiting beliefs, meaning there's no limit to what your belief is. So once we can realize that change is possible, we can create and manifest anything we want. What do you guys think about that? That's pretty much what part 1 was about, is realizing that change is possible and that making positive, happiness our number 1 to create and manifest what we want can happen. Like, what do you guys think about all that?
It's just so counterculture to the way at least I was raised. And it's a paradigm shift. And a part of it appeals to me as well because it's rebellious. It's rebelling against the common way of thinking, and it gives permission to put happiness first. And I think that's a huge shift for our culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else want to chime in?
Well, I'm just smiling to what Antonia said, because I guess I've been always that rebellious person. So for me, might be easier to go against like when the most crowd is going, but I totally agree with her. It's very difficult to do something that you kind of like get a proof every day that other people are doing differently, and then you trap yourself thinking like, why do I think that I'm doing this better than 100 people that are doing this the same way but differently? So I totally agree with her. It takes lots of courage and kind of like just reminding yourself all the time that also what makes you happy, it doesn't make other people happy. And many people kind of like fell in trap that, you know, great job, lots of money, it's a happiness. And guys, I'm from corporate world, 12 years world, and yes, he is high position, but is he really happy? I don't know. So it's money and position doesn't bring people happiness.
Mm-mm. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You're absolutely right. And just hearing this, you know, what we're talking about, be at the, you know, you didn't necessarily have to read what we're discussing, right, to understand what this book is about. And again, I am so flippin' excited to get started on this. Like, I mean, you know, anyone else want to share before we break down like how you guys would like to do this moving forward? Because I want to get a vote on, do we want to dedicate, you know, do we want to dedicate our weeks to each principle, or do you want to read the whole second part and then kind of do it in one, or do we really want to delve into the first principle and then implement it? Okay. Yeah, that's what I think too. I think that if we're going to create change within ourselves, we really need to like freaking dig into it and implement that, you know, so then I mean, it's only 30 pages again, which takes like 30 minutes to read. Really, if you sit down and it takes like 30 minutes to read and you highlight and you go back over what you've highlighted, you know, and the notes you've taken, then it's like a full hour. That's it. And then implementing that until our, you know, like until our next call, and then sharing what we did and our successes, and then implementing, you know, the second.
Teresa, something that I saw that I'm trying to figure out how I can more relate. And when I say American privilege, I mean, like he went to other countries, and those other countries were absolutely ecstatic to be able to go to school. And it was a privilege for them to go to school. And we go through going, oh my gosh, I got to go to school again, you know, and I've got to learn again. And so how can I take that and, you know, from my American privilege of not ever realizing that children around the world don't go to school every day. You know, adults around the world don't have the opportunity to go to work every day. You know, how can I embrace that and expand on it within my own life and enjoy what the freedom that I have to be able to do that and maximize that into my life. So that's kind of where I was at with it. But and I'm looking at that going, well, a lot of these other cultures, they don't have those freedoms, they don't have those privileges, they don't have those rights. We do. And now I get to somehow, I should look in within and find the joy from within that I have this opportunity.
Yeah, you know what, May, you just got 100% target. I cannot agree with you more. And I'm telling this to you as a foreigner, and I'm not telling you as a foreigner from the third country world. I'm talking you from this very successful, just being transferred to United States. when you look at the Forbes 400, and I love what Teresa is doing with this book, I'm going to read it, and I agree that we should do chapter by chapter because it looks like it's so important for us. And guys, just so I can explain myself, I have so many unlimited beliefs, so many, but on the other hand, I have just few, but so deeply grown into me limited beliefs. So it's kind of like both ways. And I've been struggling with this, and Teresa knows, but talking about this, when you say like people cannot go to school, or, so I will tell you, like, the perspective of being in a developed country, the opportunities that United States is giving, most people who are born here take it for granted, or they don't even see it. They simply don't see it. And this is why when you look at Forbes 400, so many people on the list are foreigners. I'm not saying that every foreigner who comes to this country is successful, but just because we see the opportunity, this is the reason, guys, I stayed in United States. I had a very happy, very successful life in Poland. I did it for my kids. I'm just like, nobody in the world is going to give them opportunity that at age of 60, you guys can go and you can find a job and you can transfer and you can change as many times as you want in your lifetime. They will never, ever allow you to do that in Europe, never. So I think that Teresa, that book, and May, you just got it so right, that book, like if we could kind of like uncover this 90% of our brain and kind of like change our attitude somehow, that would be great. And how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely we can. And again, it goes to just like, really doing the work, right? And also the release work, the 4 requisites to change, doing the release work on what it is that you need to do, creating the goal, creating your action plan, and positive focus, right? So I've already been working with you ladies on release work, on things that you needed to release, right? We've got a goal created, and then the action plan, and now it's our positive focus. So we can change our mindsets to just be completely positive and implement this study that this man has created, and it is statistically proven to work. Oh my goodness, think of what we can manifest and the changes we can make within our lives, right? And not listen to this negativity that's all around us. I mean, some of y'all, you go, oh, this market. I'm like, what market? It's a great market. Think about how positive it is. In 1999, well, I'm going to show something with you guys. Hold on. I'm going to share this with y'all. Wait 1 second. Okay. You're going to freak out when I share this with you. So we've talked about, we've been like listening to this whole like, oh my gosh, the interest rates and all this other stuff, right? Well, I want to show you what interest rates were like. And, when we look at what's happening right now, which statistically, we're still at an all-time low. Well, let me show you girls this really quick. So it is statistically, it's a 7-year trend. If we look at
7-year itch.
Yeah, it's a 7. Okay, there we go. It's a 7-year trend if we look statistically, right? So, and this is to 2021. And yes, we're back up here, but I think they've gone down a little bit. But every 7 years we see a trend, and it's actually kind of been rising, which is funny because we go, oh my gosh, but this happened because of COVID. If the federal government hadn't adjusted because of COVID, think of what would have, what our economy would be like then, now, right?
Can you send us that graph?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll make sure Ariane sends that to you guys. And so one thing that I've been working on with everyone is the incredible you, which is what we mastermind with Gary Keller, and focusing on your 20%. So on our next calls, for those of us who have not had a call yet, we're going to talk about your 20% and really focusing on that. And then this is just such a great visual because you can see really, I mean, it's every 7 years we see we see a trend. And so we're at that 7-year mark, that's all. Right? And what happens is the trend, it goes up, but then it works its way back down. It's if we saw it trend to this, we should be worried about, right? But it's right here.
Mhm.
And I think
Historical
Teresa, this is a great,
average from 90 to 20 to the, 90s to the 20, to now, to the 2000s. Oh, good grief. The other day I said, yeah, in the early 1900s, and I meant early 1990s. I was like, whoa, what did I just say? Early 1900s. Yeah.
and I think Teresa, to your point, is that was great what you said, about the 7-year trend, but also that we wouldn't have those crazy 2% interest rates. I even know about 1.75 at some point, if the government wouldn't regulate it. And now they are regulating it back because obviously.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the buyers are not educated. And, at the moment, it can look scary for us agents, especially when we have listings. Guys, I have a listing in the most desirable place. We are not on the market yet, and I have 2 showings scheduled. And, it's much more like buyers suddenly kind of like froze. But I believe this is just going to be for a moment. And we are again going to be back. They have to live with that rates they are having, or they are going to rent and pay ridiculous money.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's been helpful is the rents have also gone up commensurately to help motivate people as well.
Yeah.
We just have to educate them. We have to set the expectation, educate the buyers on what the market is doing. This is a good chart to show them, and don't be fearful, but you can always refinance if rates go back down. So don't wait for a rate to go down before you buy, because home prices will still continue to rise.
Yep.
Catherine, I don't want to cut Teresa off here, but what I love, what Gary said at some point, when we asked him, he would be repeating this on every family reunion and big meetings. He says, like, there is always a good time to buy if there is a right house, because that's true. When the market is going to shift to whatever, and you're going to have plenty of houses, or you're going to buy it just because you have plenty of houses, if you don't like any of those, this is such a fantastic line. I've been using this constantly with my buyers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And it's so true.
So that is a little off of what I was, but I just wanted to share with you. It's a little far off from our book club, but I think it's really important that, because I want you ladies to know that this is just all mindset crap. This whole stupid, like, the market shifted. Look at it as an opportunity to kick ass. Excuse my language. Don't ever, ever, ever let something defeat you, and you listen to what they're wanting to create for you guys to believe. No, because we're creating our own belief, which is a positive belief. Okay.
And you know what, Teresa, this is so true what you are saying, because I'm just kind of like looking even myself how I behave, so I did everything possible I could do with that listing, and there is not really much I can do more, because I'm doing everything what is my system and process. But why would I sit and dwell on it like, oh my gosh, I have only 2 showings and I cannot change it. What I can do, I can take the opportunity of whatever I know, and then to go and like educate the sellers, as you said, like, hey, the market is still great, and to educate the buyers, hey, take advantage of those listings right now that are here, and before people wake up like it happened in 2020. So it's really mindset for us, like, okay, don't dwell on whatever you are here, because you cannot change the market. You cannot. You just have to go forward.
Yeah, we can't. Okay. So okay, so back to our book club, right? We are going to take it principle by principle. So principle number 1 is the happiness advantage, and it starts on page 37 and ends on page 61. So today's Thursday. Friday, you ladies will be following your schedule, working. You can either read these 30 pages Friday night or Saturday. Sunday, we're gonna start implementing. Monday for sure. We're gonna implement principle number 1. Okay, and then we will have our next book club on that following Thursday, which is the 30th. Okay. And we will have it same time, 10 o'clock for 30 minutes. And we will discuss the positive change that we created, any like patterns that we're seeing, any triggers that we're seeing, any charge that you get around this, be sure to write down, and we can actually, I can actually start the call by doing some release work with everyone. It only takes a couple of minutes on whatever that charge is. So if you feel a charge, you feel a trigger, write it down. And then at the beginning of our call, we don't have to share what it was. We're just going to immediately do the release work on Ho'oku'u, which is the faster one, the Hawaiian technique that I do with you guys, that I have done with some of y'all. And that way we'll release whatever trigger that you've got around it. Okay. And then we'll talk about our positive experiences, because we don't want to bring any negative, we're only going to focus on what makes us happy in this. Okay.
You know what I found helpful is I got it on Audible as well. And so I listened to it, 2-3 times, and then I picked up the book and went over the book as well. And it really helped to get it in my brain better.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Well, any other shares before we wrap up today? If we don't, love you ladies, and so excited. Like, we are going to be like Wonder Woman, right? And by the time we finish this, and people are going to say, what are you guys doing? I'm going to say, we're doing the happiness advantage. And for those of you, I will be seeing some of you guys or gals later today. We have calls. I know, May, that you and I have a call today. Right? Don't we have a call today, May?
Yes, we do. I may be running on
Yeah,
it.
you do at 12:30 my time. And then
12:30.
12:30 your time. And then I'll be seeing Diane tomorrow morning and giving her book. I bought her a copy. We're having breakfast tomorrow. So, okay, be well. And I look forward to next Thursday, same time. Arian will be sending out an invite. And in the meantime, if y'all need anything, just reach out. Okay. See y'all later.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.